The army of spies was operating as a very well-oiled machine today. There's a lot of Cardano info at our disposal right now, but two of you identified very interesting suspects for the secret partnerships that will be unveiled at the summit this weekend. Ready? Let's go. Caution. Possible spoilers ahead. I say possible because nobody really knows, nobody seems to know who these secret partnerships are that are going to be unveiled this weekend. At least nobody who's talking about it. But on the off chance that the guesses involved in the information we're discussing in this video are correct, it would probably spoil the surprise you would receive this weekend when you're watching the summit. So if you don't want that surprise to be spoiled and you think there's a chance these guesses as to the secret partnerships might be correct, you may not want to watch the rest of this video. I suspect that most of you are going to watch it anyways and you won't worry about any possible spoiling, or you might think that the chances of these guesses being correct are so low that you shouldn't worry about it. But in any case, you've been warned. Possible spoilers. Let me just say again, these are still what if scenarios. We don't know exactly what the secret partnerships are going to be, but we're intellectually exploring all the possibilities, which is, I think, one of the best ways to think about these kind of things. So this first one was sent to me by Kevin Schmidt. This is the agenda for the Wyoming blockchain stampede. And the Wyoming blockchain stampede involves a bunch of different things going on this week at the University of Wyoming. You've got BizCon, DAO Day, DevCon, FinCon, Future Forward Hackathon, a lot of different things. Hackathon is going to come into play in just a little bit. So the events kind of start on Tuesday and they run through Saturday. And the timing, I think, is important. And you'll notice there are Cardano people sprinkled throughout here. Like here we have the Future Forward Roundtable, and we see Frederick Regard, CEO of the Cardano Foundation. And as we go down, this is becoming a pretty big event. The Wyoming Blockchain Stampede is a pretty big event at this point. As we go down to Friday, we notice we get to a slightly different color here. These are the Hackathon events. So check this out. The very last day before the Hackathon events kind of start, before the opening ceremonies, we see this entry, implementing the new Wyoming Digital Identity Act. So what is the Wyoming Digital Identity Act? It's this bill right here. And if we go to the status tab on the Wyoming legislature's website, we can see it was introduced in January of 2021 and passed and signed eventually by the governor on April 1st, 2021. So we know the governor signed this bill. So that means it was adopted by the state. If we come down here, it looks like it became effective on July 1st of this year. So just barely. It's been effective law for just a couple of months here. But what is this bill? So this bill says acts taken through a personal digital identity are attributable to a natural person if they were the act of the natural person. Similarly, acts taken through an organizational digital identity are attributable to the organization if they were the act of the organization. And it has a bunch of legal language about the effect of an electronic record or electronic signature or other attributable to a natural person or organization. Okay, that sounds like a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo. What does this actually mean? We can come over here to this little summary PDF. The summary PDF tells us this bill lays the groundwork for future laws relating to digital identity by providing a definition for personal and organizational digital identity that applies statewide, and by providing for the attribution of actions taken through a personal or organizational digital identity to the natural person or organization. Basically, they're just laying out, hey, under Wyoming law, you can have digital identities for people and organizations, probably like corporations. And don't forget, in Wyoming, they have this thing where DAOs are treated as LLCs. So even for a DAO could have an organizational digital identity probably. And they're saying here, this is the groundwork for future laws related to these digital identities. So you could build up a big digital identity framework for everybody and every company in Wyoming. You'll remember back on May 3rd in video number 48, we talked about Wyokanda, this idea that Wyoming seemed to be building out this super high-tech blockchain-based cowboy society up there. Gary Gensler seems to keep saying that crypto is the Wild West, and it seems like Wyoming keeps saying, good, that's us. Now, granted, the person giving this presentation about the Digital Identity Act is associated with MIT. And a lot of times when we think about MIT, we're going to think about Algorand. However, doesn't this have Atala Prism written all over it? Atala Prism was built for exactly this, providing digital identity to people and organizations. And Atala Prism has already been rolled out to millions of people in Ethiopia. Can any other blockchain claim that they've already been rolled out to anything even approaching those kind of numbers in terms of a digital identity solution? I don't think anybody else has done anything even approaching this. And then you think about the very, very strong ties of IOHK to Wyoming. IOHK is obviously invested heavily in the University of Wyoming. Input Output Global is based in Wyoming. The founder, Charles Hoskinson, even has a bison ranch in Wyoming. You'll also remember that Cardano's early partner, Beef Chain, is a Wyoming project. I wouldn't be at all shocked if we hear more about Beef Chain this weekend. Also, it seems like Charles has been spending a decent amount of time up there in Wyoming lately. Great dinner with the gang, Governor Gordon, Caitlin Long, University of Wyoming president, and friends. IOHK and Cardano have very close ties to Wyoming. They also have the perfect product in Atala Prism to run digital identity, and basically the only one that's been deployed at scale in any governmental jurisdiction anywhere in the world that I know of. What are the chances that this topic right here, implementing the new Wyoming Digital Identity Act, doesn't involve Cardano? Also important, if we roll down here a little bit, we see the Wyoming Hackathon starts. This is kind of the very end of the Wyoming Blockchain Stampede. So this is the Friday before the summit starts. And we see Wyo Hackathon opening ceremony, and the guests are Senator Cynthia Lummis, Tyler Lindholm, who works for Cynthia Lummis. He's her state policy coordinator. Caitlin Long, CEO of Avanti Bank, and one of the architects of the Wyoming blockchain revolution. And we see Charles Hoskinson, part of the opening ceremony of the Wyo Hackathon, and also one of the keynote speakers. Then we roll into Saturday. And remember, Saturday is also the first day of the Cardano Summit. And look what they show as part of the Wyoming Blockchain Stampede. They show the Charles Hoskinson Cardano Summit keynote. That's at 9 a.m. That's a little peculiar. The Wyoming Blockchain Stampede and the Wyo Hackathon includes the Charles Hoskinson Cardano Summit keynote as part of the Wyo Hackathon. Perhaps that's because Charles is going to announce something that is very pertinent to the state of Wyoming. And then the next thing we see as part of the Wyo Hackathon at 12:30 p.m. is Tyler Lindholm, who is also someone who's been very deeply involved in this whole Wyoming blockchain revolution, giving something they're calling the Governor's Proclamation. Welcome to the Governor's Proclamation event, at least. And then just a short time later, so that's 12:30. And then at 1 p.m., we see Governor Gordon's proclamation address. Next thing we see is a fireside chat with Caitlin Long, Tyler Lindholm, and the governor, a retrospective of how we got here, where we were going, and the exciting future we are building. This all kind of makes sense. I think the Wyoming Blockchain Stampede, if this is what it looks like, if this is some kind of announcement that Cardano and the state of Wyoming are partnering up on something like digital identity, wouldn't this make sense that they would put the Charles Hoskinson Cardano Summit keynote into the Wyoming Hackathon? But after all, Charles is already one of their keynote speakers, so it's not suspicious to have his Cardano Summit keynote show back up in the Wyo Hackathon agenda. But if the governor of Wyoming popped up in a Cardano Summit agenda, then a lot of people in Cardano would definitely be suspicious that there was a partnership with Wyoming. Talked many times on this channel about exactly what IOHK's Cardano identity solution, Atala Prism, can do. You've seen all the things it could do for educational records, for health records, has enterprise, finance, travel, and social applications. It also has application to governance. What if Wyoming ran its next elections on the Cardano blockchain? A partnership with Wyoming right now would be a very dynamic partnership. Like I already mentioned, the Wyoming Blockchain Stampede started today, and they already had a meeting of the Select Committee on Blockchain, Financial Technology, and Digital Innovation Technology, which is a part of the Wyoming State Legislature. Here's the agenda for that meeting. If we start at the bottom, you can see they covered a lot of different things like e-residency, very interesting for digital identity, cryptocurrency mining, including flared natural gas cryptocurrency mining, cryptocurrency lotteries, including the CEO of the Wyoming lottery. And then they had a section that they called general blockchain updates. So one of the really interesting things here, I watched a YouTube cast of this. I believe it was this meeting earlier today. And in that meeting, you could kind of see it. Caitlin Long was sort of live tweeting the event as well, which there was kind of a funny scene in the meeting where one of the members of the panel called her out on it because people in DC were relating to him some of her live tweets of what they were talking about in the meeting. But what was interesting is they talked a lot about the relationship between the Wyoming Special Purpose Depository Institution bank charters and their relationship to the federal banking system. The problem they're running into, Wyoming created this really cool system we've talked about before on this channel, the Speedy bank charter. And this is meant to be a crypto bank. The problem is, if you're a crypto bank, you want to use certain nationwide things. Even if you're a Wyoming crypto bank, you want to use certain things that are kind of nationwide, like ACH. You need to have a fiat on-ramp to be an effective crypto bank, right? We haven't got to that stage where people don't need to convert their fiat currency into crypto yet. That's definitely an important part of being a crypto bank. In order to do those kinds of things, you need to have access to a bunch of the Fed systems. And it turns out you need things like routing numbers. If you ask yourself, who grants a bank a routing number, you might think it's some organ of the federal government that does that. According to the video I watched today, that is not actually the case. It's actually the American Bankers Association that grants routing numbers. That's a private entity. Predictably, it sounds like these Wyoming Speedy chartered banks are not having a lot of good luck getting routing numbers out of the American Bankers Association. Shocker, the members of the American Bankers Association don't want a bunch of new institutions in Wyoming to have fiat on-ramps because they would probably prefer if the traditional banks would get to continue their monopoly of holding American consumers' monies. They don't exactly want a bunch of rogue banks out in Wyoming to be sucking up that business. They prefer that a bunch of laws just get passed so that they can do it. And in fact, there's kind of a fascinating interplay going on between the banks kind of the world and the sort of Basel accounting standards, because those banks want to be able to do things in crypto, which Caitlin Long actually thinks would be very dangerous to those banks because they won't be prepared for the lack of reversibility of crypto transactions and also the finality. She thinks it actually creates a lot of liabilities for the banks that they're not prepared to handle with their normal banking procedures. So the banks want to do crypto stuff. Probably they're not even prepared to do crypto stuff, but they don't want a bunch of brand new players on the scene who will suck up all that business, like Avanti and Kraken and crypto entities. They want us going to the normal banks. But that's part of what makes this possible partnership with Cardano and Wyoming so dynamic because Cardano is the blockchain that's used to sort of fighting against the system and winning from the outside and not being liked by everybody. Cardano, that's how Cardano came up. So Cardano might be the perfect blockchain to have tightly integrated in this Wyoming greater crypto ecosystem as these Wyoming speedy institutions attempt to acquire all the rights and privileges that normal federally chartered banks would have. Here's the other what if scenario. This one was sent to me by Taz. You might have seen he and I discussing this in the comments from the video yesterday. So we all remember that Cardano was one of the 15 finalists for the Monetary Authority of Singapore's Global CBDC Challenge. You can see right here in the article, this is a legit contest to develop retail central bank digital currency solutions for Singapore. And there's a bit of bureaucracy involved. Whoever wins, even just the finalists have to go through an 8-week acceleration phase, and then there are different things they have to do. But this appears to be the legit competition to see who gets to develop the CBDC for Singapore. Here's the list of finalists. You already know this. This article made the rounds. You already know that IOG Singapore is on the list. That is Input Output Global Singapore. I know you're thinking to yourself, hey, IOG is Wyoming based. What is IOG Singapore? IOG is not stupid. When they are trying to win a grant in Europe, they're going to establish some little thing in Cyprus because it's a member of the EU. If they're trying to win something from the Singaporean government, they're going to do like everybody else has done. See this Singapore NA or Singapore branch, Citibank NA, HSBC Bank, Singapore. Everybody who's smart is setting up Singapore-based entities and using those as the entity name for entering in this contest. But obviously IOG was one of the finalists. I think we all knew about this news. It was great news, but being one out of 15 finalists, that's not exactly winning the whole thing. Here's the interesting piece that Taz pointed out. Shahaf Bargeffen, the CEO of COTI, recently did an AMA, and they published an AMA recap on their Medium account. One of the questions was this. Recently, I saw that Input Output Global is one of the 15 finalists in the CBDC challenge as announced on Singapore's central bank website. Will COTI be involved in development of the country's CBDC, parenthetical JED, if IOG is selected? The COTI response was this. Very interesting. Wait to see the announcement during the Cardano Summit is all I can say for now. Obviously, there are some different ways this could be interpreted. I mean, the question itself is a little bit ambiguous because they do a good job summing up the information that was available on the Singapore Monetary Authority's website. But then they kind of muddle the picture by mentioning JED as well. And they say, will COTI be involved if IOG is selected? COTI says, wait for the announcement. That's all I can say for now. So they could be saying, hey, yeah, at the summit, we're going to announce that if Cardano wins, we're going to partner with them on that project. They could also be saying, though, yes, Cardano has won or Cardano has advanced to an even more final list of finalists. We don't know, but it looks like there's something involving that Monetary Authority of Singapore CBDC challenge and Cardano that's being announced at the summit. If that's the case, this would be huge. We've talked a little bit about potential Cardano projects in Asia on this channel, but when you imagine the best possible projects you could do in Asia, Singapore is a great location for any of those projects. Singapore has historically been the base of operations for a lot of different crypto stuff over the years. I think I was trading on exchanges based in Singapore, theoretically based in Singapore, even back in that 2014 to 2016 period. Singapore has always been big for crypto. Singapore is also one of the richest places on earth. It's definitely one of the wealthiest cities in the world, and it's a city state. Singapore is ideal. When we think about, we've talked in the past about how there are sort of two different, there are definitely multiple tiers of utility of Cardano, but there are definitely different utilities offered to the developing world and the developed world. This would definitely be on the very, very developed end of the developed world piece of that spectrum. But a Cardano based CBDC in Singapore would be all the superlatives that have been used recently by IOHK and the Cardano Foundation to describe what they're going to announce at this summit. It would be groundbreaking and mind blowing and industry defining. This would be amazing if Cardano. But when we go back to the article on the website of the Monetary Authority of Singapore, there's an important footnote here. It says the finalists will progress to the acceleration phase of the global CBDC challenge before they pitch their solutions to a panel of judges and an international audience at this year's Singapore FinTech Festival. And there's a little footnote number 1. When we go down to the footnote number 1, what we find is that Singapore FinTech Festival will be held on 8 to 12 November 2021. So Cardano made it into this top 15 list, but they're actually going, whoever wins is going to be the person who pitches the judges at the Singapore FinTech Festival in November, and then the winner would be announced. In a late entry to our lineup, we also saw this. A well-respected member of the Cardano community noticed something on LinkedIn. That something was an executive, seemed to be an executive from an extremely large tech company, inviting people to join the Cardano Summit this weekend. Now, you could interpret this a couple of different ways. You could say, oh, maybe he just likes Cardano and he was encouraging other people to, experience the blockchain project that he likes. Or it could be that that executive was going to be a part of the Cardano Summit and he was encouraging people to come watch him, as in he was maybe going to deliver some news about a partnership between his gigantic tech company and Cardano. We don't know. This particular member of the Cardano community decided they wanted to delete their tweet to not feed speculation. So out of respect for that, I will not name the company, but it was extremely intriguing, just to put it lightly. So are we going to get some news about COTI and Cardano and Singapore, or Cardano and Wyoming digital identity, or Avanti Bank, or Kraken Bank, or Beef Chain? We just don't know at this point, but I wouldn't be surprised if we hear about some or all of those this weekend. On one final note, Cardano put out this little press release about the summit today, and there was a very interesting note here. They kind of went through the bullet points, and at the very end, they mentioned that there will be 10,000 people attending over 50 in-person events organized by the Cardano community from San Salvador to Singapore. I thought that was very interesting. I mean, granted, all three of those words start with the same consonant, but at the same time, if I can't help but take note, talk to you tomorrow.